Why a court ruling has raised fears of Polexit. Many have described this as a move that could lead towards a legal Polexit, as it introduces deep issues in cooperation between the police and European courts. Several thousand Poles have taken to the streets to reaffirm their demand to stay in the bloc. Poland and the European Union suffered a setback in their already hampered relationship this week after a Polish court provided a major challenge to the European Union's legal framework, effectively rejecting the primacy of European Union law over Polish national legislation in certain matters. The controversial ruling was defended by Poland Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, who played down its implications and said his country is not an uninvited guest in the European Union and therefore does not agree to be treated as a second-class country. Many have described this as a move that could lead towards a legal Polexit, as it introduces deep issues in cooperation between the Polish and the European courts. The ruling has therefore invited backlash from the bloc and several other member states, triggered a national outrage in the country which thinks this could jeopardize Poland's access to European Union funds, among other things. Several thousand Poles have taken to the streets to reaffirm their demand to stay in the bloc. So, what is the ruling that has triggered this tussle? Poland's Constitutional Tribunal on Thursday ruled that some articles of one of the European Union's primary treaties were not compatible with the Polish laws. Essentially, it declared that the European Union law should not have primacy over every national legislation in Poland. This legal challenge to the European bloc was brought by the Poland Prime Minister himself in March this year. This represents a one of a kind situation, as it is the first time since the formation of the European Union that a leader of a member state has questioned its treaties openly in a constitutional court. The ruling also says that police judges should not use European Union law to question their peers. What has led to this ruling? It all started when some new changes were introduced in the Polish judiciary, especially since Poland's Nationalist Law and Justice Party came to power in 2015. The ruling party brought amendments to the legal system that increased more government control over judges, thereby reducing judicial independence in some aspects. These new changes were condemned by the European Commission as well as other international legal bodies who accused the government of increasing political interference and control over the judiciary. Adding to this, Poland introduced a new Supreme Court chamber which had the power to sanction judges for specific rulings. This chamber, according to critics, was also being used to silence and punish those judges who had spoken against the government. The Commission asked the European Court of Justice to levy daily fines to Poland for not suspending the activities of this new Supreme Court chamber. The ECJ also ruled that the new system of appointing police judges infringes European law. It was after this ruling that Prime Minister Morawiecki brought the legal challenge in March. How has the European Union reacted to the latest legal challenge? In a statement, the European Union said that the Polish challenge raises serious concerns in relation to the primacy of European law and the authority of the Court of Justice of the European Union. It reiterated the founding principles of the European Union's legal order that clearly states its primacy over national laws of all its member states. We will analyze the ruling of the Polish Constitutional Tribunal in detail and we will decide on the next steps. The Commission will not hesitate to make use of its powers under the treaties to safeguard the uniform application and integrity of Union law, it said. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she was deeply concerned by the actions of Poland. I have instructed the Commission service to analyze it thoroughly and swiftly. On the basis, we will decide on next steps, she said in her first public statement on the matter. Other member states like France and Germany have also reacted to this by reminding Poland of its obligation to the bloc. Poland has a moral and legal obligation as a member of the European Union to abide by its rules completely and unconditionally. The foreign minister of France and Germany said in a statement issued on Friday. Could this lead to a possibility of a poll exit? After the ruling received widespread backlash, the Prime Minister reiterated the fact that Poland wants to stay in the European Union and said the issue has become a bigger deal than it is. Morawiecki and another prominent political leader, Jarosław Kaczyński, have instead blamed the country's opposition parties for spreading fake news regarding the exit to stoke fear in people. On the possibility of poll exit, Morawiecki took to Facebook and wrote, "This is a harmful myth which the opposition uses for its own lack of ideas about Poland's responsible place in Europe." However, others have different ideas of what this could lead to. Donald Tusk, the former European Council president and now the head of Poland's largest opposition group, Civic Coalition, said the country stared at a real possibility of an exit. "We have to save Poland. No one will do it for us," he wrote on Twitter. How have the police people reacted to this? Reacting to the ruling and reiterating their stance of staying within the European Union, over 1 lakh Poles took to streets on Sunday amid fears that Poland could leave the bloc. Rallies were held across the entire country. According to the organizers, protests were held in about 100 cities and towns with over 100,000 turning up in the capital Warsaw alone. People could be seen waving the flags of Poland and the European Union and shouting slogans like "We are staying." Several members of the opposition political activities and others were a part of the protest. Even opinion polls have consistently shown a strong backing for European Union membership among the voters, according to the BBC. What could Poland lose amid all this? The ruling has thrown Poland and European Union's relation into a state of crisis, since the European Union provides trade, jobs, and other benefits to the country. This tussle could have an impact on that. European Union officials were also expected to approve funds to Poland this month. However, the last ruling complicates this, as some officials have called to freeze all kinds of financial flows to the country. Thank you.